Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today in the Ask SSM video series, got an email from a subscriber. Sounds like this guy's probably at least in his 50s, if not older. He described himself as an old soldier in the subject line to me. And he's writing in to share his experience in the military and offer some advice to a lot of young guys that are thinking about going down that path. A lot of guys in the stories that I cover, as you guys probably are aware of, mention an interest in going in the military, or maybe after a little college they do that to figure out what they want to do, get some direction, type of thing. So I'm going to go over here. This is nothing like the crazy stories about open marriages or anything like this. This is really a video to help young guys. That'd be a good one to cover here, because I do like to, of course, mix it up a bit. But before I get into this guy's info here, which is very useful, I do have a little bit of an entertaining story to start this off. Just will take about 3 or 4 minutes, from a guy in Australia and his experience with an inist bartender. He says here, good day from Australia. Longtime follower here. The first video I saw you present, you were sitting in the lounge room without sunglasses. Thank you so much for the great advice and all the laughs. I've changed people's names in this story. He says, my name is Ben. I'm a 52-year-old logistics manager in Australia. I work for a large international company. I cannot name the company because they take great pride in their fake wokeness and virtue signaling. That's what they all do. They're all a bunch of phonies. While refusing to spend any money really helping anyone else who might actually need it, typical corporate BS. 3 months ago, my company was part of an industry-wide industry awards night. Some of my department were going to meet for pre-drinks at the famous pub in Melbourne. I bumped into one of my coworkers on the train into town. I'll call her Sarah. So we walked into the pub together. Sarah said she wanted to wash her hands after being on public transportation, and I said I'd order the drinks. Sarah said, don't forget I still owe you for this month's lotto, so I'll pay for the drinks. So I walked to the bar. The barmaid was a blue-haired, tattooed, and heavily pierced effenist wearing denim overalls. Yeah, that pretty much is the uniform for effenist. And from what I'm told, it is effenist galore down under in Australia. That's what I've been hearing. It was such a cliche. I said hello, received zero response. Of course you did. And I ordered a beer and a mixed drink. As the drinks were being placed in the bar, I pulled out a $50 to pay. Sarah was just behind me and said, wait, I'll get these. Suddenly, the blue-haired effenist, without being prompted, said to Sarah, he's the man, he should pay. Of course she did. You had her number just by... Now, we all know, the saying is you can't judge a book by its cover, and there's certainly situations like that. But a lot of times, you can judge a book by its cover, and right here, of course she said that. Both Sarah and I were stunned. It was so unnecessary and so rude. I've never met a blue-haired, tattooed, heavily pierced effenist that wasn't rude, and will use any excuse to stick it to the man. We literally stood there in a Mexican standoff for about 15 seconds in uncomfortable silence. To try and break the tension, I made a joke and I said to the barmaid, "You'll have to excuse my friend. She's a feminist. She believes in equal pay." Ooh, I'm sure that ruffled her blue feathers. Not even looking at me, the blue-haired effenist looked at Sarah like she just crawled out of a cave and said, feminism doesn't count when it comes to who pays. How many times have I said, it's all about equality until it's time to shovel some snow or to pay the bill? Right here. And this is, Lord knows how many miles away from where I am in Florida right now. Now, I'm just an average office worker. I'm not confrontational, but I really felt like throwing my beer at her. I just walked off. I didn't even want my beer after that toxic, venomous interaction. Sarah followed me shortly afterwards. We sat down with our coworkers who could see the steam coming out of my ears. Dude, I don't blame you, but don't let her get a rise out of you, because I guarantee you she enjoyed pissing you off. Sarah brought my beer over and apologized to me for what had happened. It's not her fault. I then told the group of 12 people what the barmaid said, and we finished our first drinks and went to another bar. Side note, from that time on, every time I see a barmaid or a waitress with piercings and blue hair, I go somewhere else. Thank you so much for the laughs, SSM. Keep up the great work. Well, thank you for watching, bro. If you really want to stick it to the blue-haired, rude effenist, you should contact your boss. Although probably Either her boss is just like her, or nothing could be done to her anyway. All right, on to the main story about the military guy. He says, "Dear SSM, I just finished watching one of your videos, and it ended with the hero of the story working towards joining the armed forces in an attempt to set himself up for success in the future. I've noticed that the protagonist in many of the stories you cover ends up joining the armed forces, and I wanted to expand on what that looks like based on my own personal experience." Well, I appreciate you taking the time, bro, because there's a lot of guys that are thinking about going down that path. "I feel like this is an important subject to address since a lot of people join up with little to no direction once they're in, and they leave a lot on the table. Since your channel is devoted to helping men be strong and successful at any age, I'd like to submit some thoughts to the prospective service members that I believe will help them greatly in their military journey. First, a little about me. My father started cheating on my mom was out of my life when I was 13 years old. This left me and my 3 siblings to be raised by my mom right when I was about to start middle school. That could have been fun. Although it's not your... I don't know what the situation was, but your dad was cheating on her and he was out of the picture, so I'm going to benefit the doubt, say your mom wasn't the one that made him crazy or made him leave her or do that. But she was actually... I'm assuming she was good to you. But a boy needs a father, especially that period in his life. Before you ask, yes, my father is the jerk in this situation. Okay. He has been completely absent from my life for almost 2 decades and has had every opportunity to reconnect. He is currently on his 5th marriage and lives in the middle of nowhere, Missouri. One of those, huh? Having him return to my life would allow an avalanche of drama into my life, and I won't allow that into my house. My newly single mother did her best as she could to raise her kids, but tried to raise her sons to be a gentleman. Uh-oh. When a woman says she wants to raise her boys to be a gentleman, that's pretty much code for A, a guy I never would have slept with, and B, well, let's be honest, a pussy. A boy needs a masculine presence and role model. A lot of women that have been burned by the guys for whatever reason often then have sons, and they want to raise them to be little gentlemen, to not do the same things. And then unfortunately they raise the boys to be so nice that those boys get just demolished. And you guys know what I'm talking about here. This is code for blue-pilled beta simp. See? I believe she did the best that she could, but her best, frankly, wasn't good enough. This caused me to be an awkward beta, which made my high school a living hell. And I went from relationship to relationship, allowing myself to be taken advantage of. That's what happens when boys are raised to be little gentlemen. This culminated in a year-long relationship that started in the middle of my senior year in high school and into my freshman year of college. The level of toxicity that this woman achieved is truly remarkable, and it is worth its own separate story altogether. And I never would have tolerated it if I had a strong masculine figure in my life. Well, you should share that story, bro. The second long story short, she caused me to lose my scholarship and drop out of college, which left me aimless with the direction I wanted to take in my life. I'm guessing hence the military. I entertained the thought of enlisting and took the ASVAB, Armed Forces Vocational Aptitude Battery, to see what I qualified for. I scored high enough to sign up for the Navy's nuclear power program, and I shipped out to Navy boot camp in August 2009. Okay, this guy isn't as old as I thought. Sounds like he's probably late 30s. The nuclear-trained soldiers, nukes for short, have a stereotype of being scrawny computer nerds with bad hygiene, but also some of the smartest sailors in the fleet. For my training, I learned a lot about engineering principles, which set me up for success later. But it was one of the hardest schools I ever did. I was stationed on fast attack submarines out of Pearl Harbor for 4 years and deployed to the Pacific and Indian Oceans. Here is some of the wisdom that I would try and share with the new generation of soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. Okay. Number 1. You hear the sirens? Can't escape them. They sent them from Massachusetts. He says, number 1, be brutally honest about what you want to get out of the military. You basically have 2 options that make sense. Either you make it a career or get experience and get out. In my case, I didn't know if I was going to make the military a career or if I was going to only do one enlistment. Due to this uncertainty, I chose a program that gave me a good balance of technical training and had a lot of room for promotions. No matter what I chose, I would leave the Navy with the full GI Bill. This means I would have both the resources and discipline I would need to complete college if and when I tried a second time. Number 2, learn what military programs exist to set you up for a success as a civilian. For instance, there's a program called US MAP, United States Military Apprenticeship Program, which provides service members with civilian trade licenses. Under this program, you can work toward your journeyman license for any number of trades, including welding, electrician, and nuclear operator, all while you're still in the service. Well, last time I checked, there's always demand for an electrician, welder too. So if I were a Navy electrician, I could have my supervisors track the number of hours I spent doing electrical maintenance, and it applies directly to the hours required to complete an apprenticeship as a civilian electrician. That's sweet. This is only one of the many programs like this that exist to help people get the most out of their time in the service. And I really wish I had known about it earlier than 3 months before I left the nuke world. Number 3, don't think you're stuck in one branch of the service. Just because I enlisted in the Navy, that doesn't mean I have to retire out of the Navy. I had some substantial disagreements with how business was done in the nuke world, but I still wanted to be in the military. I was looking into officer commissioning options, and I found that the Army accepts candidates from all branches for their rotary wing aviator training. I applied, was accepted, and I'm currently in Army flight school as a warrant officer learning how to fly helicopters. Dude, that's badass. I'm one of several pilots who transferred into the Army from a different branch, and none of us regret the decision we made. Well, my dad started in the Marines and then transferred to the Navy. So you're right, people do hop around, I guess. Number 4, know the difference between a soft no and a hard no. Just because you were told no doesn't mean that you're out of the fight. For example, if I told my commander I was going to steal armored trucks and sell them to a Mexican cartel, I would get a hard no from him. If I develop a training program to improve the department and my supervisor wants me to add details before sending it for approval, that's a soft no. This idea applies to requesting to go to school. There was a time when I was trying to get sent to the Navy scuba diver school so I could be a more useful member of the crew on the submarine. I was immediately met with a soft no from the divers until I proved that I was fit enough to meet the physical demands I would encounter at dive school. A diver is one of the special warfare jobs in the Navy, and they have similar physical requirements to the SEALs. Instead of giving up at the first no, I got my butt to the gym and started agility training. My hard work paid off when the divers gave me the green light to go to dive school. Holy crap, that's badass too. Number 5, get your butt in the gym. Notice some of these things he said here can be applied to other things other than the military. What I tell you all the time, guys, exercise, work out. Get your butt to the gym. The military is one of the most fitness-focused communities on the planet. Every base has at least one gym that is free to service members and their families. These gyms usually provide free classes of some kind, and I've personally seen these classes include yoga, spin classes, boxing, and jiu-jitsu. The other recommendations I've made about improving your mind, but you should never neglect your body. Well, that's awesome, and by the way, I'd be all over the boxing, guys, if you had access to doing so. Boxing was my absolute favorite thing of martial arts. I did Krav Maga and Muay Thai kickboxing. 1 hour Krav, 1 hour Muay Thai kickboxing. But you did plenty of both plenty of kickboxing and boxing in the Krav program, and my favorite was boxing more than anything. Quite frankly, I didn't like kicking aside from a groin shot kick for self-defense, because kicking's fucking exhausting, as you guys that do martial arts know. Doing roundhouse kicks are badass on the pad, but it wears you out. But dancing around and boxing, my favorite. But you mentioned something about military is one of the most fitness-focused communities on the planet. Unless I'm misinformed, I'm really hearing about how just more and more service members are really out of fucking shape. And also the military is having a hard time getting people, new recruits, because so many are out of shape. I hope I'm wrong here, but he finishes up saying, I could continue to discuss this discussion for hours, but I feel like I've drone on long enough. The final piece of wisdom I'll put out there isn't military specific. You need to find a mentor and don't be afraid to pick their brain. Mentorship is a lost practice among men, and we need it back more than ever. You're damn right about that, sir. This is a loud group of people who think society's problems can be solved by weakening men. But to quote Dr. Jordan Peterson, if you think tough men are dangerous, wait until you see what weak men are capable of. You're darn right. And you got a whole generation raised to be weak men. It started with the millennials and really with Gen Z. And look what we have here. I think this is why so many young guys are flocking to channels like mine. I'm not the only game in town, because they don't get this. Number one, a lot of them are raised by single MOMs to be gentlemen, amongst many other things. And traditional masculinity, positive masculinity, has been demonized. And I think also a lot of guys also watch me that are older because they see the problems out there. And you know, it's a mess. Nothing wrong with traditional masculinity. And yes, mentors, I cannot agree more. Everybody needs a mentor, a coach to help them along. You're not born knowing everything. SSM, thanks for all what you do, and thanks again for the information you provide. Our generation was robbed of strong men, and we were left trying to figure out how to become strong with very little wisdom to draw on. And that, my friend, I guarantee was done by design. Really. And what happens when you have a whole country that has more and more numbers like this that are of young fighting age? Meanwhile, you have enemies that were conditioned and raised not to be weak like this, and this is what, imagine the damage that can occur. I hope it doesn't happen, but hopefully I can do my part to help a lot of young guys out there make up for lost time and realize what they've been brainwashed, the bullshit out there. So I have hope. Anyhow, bro, thanks for sending that in. That will definitely help out some young guys out there that are thinking about the military. Again, this is not going to get a lot of views because it's not some crazy story about open relationships or anything like that, but it's important to do these things, and I do enjoy doing them. So thanks for taking your time. I appreciate it, and best of luck in your career. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below and let me know what you think about this. And also, guys, you got a question you'd like to ask me or anything, or a good story about your own personal life, email it to me. strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. Just give me some time to get to it, and I definitely will. And also, if you stumble upon some crazy-ass story that I can do on my other channel, They Did What, or the SSM Clips channel, send that to me too. Make sure you include the link from Reddit or whatever. And if it's a good one, I'll definitely use it. And, of course, if you haven't signed up for my other channels, definitely do. YouTube is definitely, lately, I've noticed for the last 2 months, really not promoting me a whole lot. And I'm sure that's done by design. So the more you guys can share or sign up for my other channels, it really does help me to spread the word, because it is an uphill battle, as I'm sure many of you guys are well aware. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.